Morning on this Thursday, getting the recorder rolling there, Dave. In case you say anything amazing to us here today, like I'm running for governor or anything. Everybody else seems to be. Are you?
No.
Okay, then. I figured I'd get it out of the way right off the bat.
You got right into it right off the bat. I give you credit, Todd. You didn't waste any time this morning.
Then we can now set it aside and move on to really serious discussion this morning. The state budget Republican plan passed the other day and moves on to the Senate where they'll do their thing, and then everybody will get together. You'll consider the governor's proposal and whatever it is that comes out of the legislature and get down to business, huh?
Yeah, I mean, given the budget situation the last couple of years, we wanted to get the process rolling a little bit sooner this year. And we took really the governor's budget proposal and tried to fine-tune that budget proposal. This proposal that passed on Tuesday spends less money than the governor had proposed, keeps the education increases, particularly for basic education, special education, includes an increase for pre-K and early childhood education, and actually maintains the 2% increase for the state system of higher education as well. The budget balances without any of the tax increases that the governor had been proposing. And we understand that, look, this is the next step in the process, but we wanted to get that rolling at the beginning of April, not waiting till the end of June to begin that process. And now it's in the Senate's hands to take a look at what tweaks and what changes they may want to make to that proposal. And ultimately, we all sit down with the governor and hopefully work this out in a timely fashion.
One of the things that you hear about it is, okay, you're increasing funding here, but you're spending less money. That money has to come out of some portion of the budget. What are the areas that you identify as being not worthy of cuts, but where money could be spent more wisely?
Well, and that's really the choice that you're faced with. You know, there are a lot of good programs and a lot of good expenditures if you had all the money in the world to expend. But when you're faced with decisions about funding education, funding public safety, funding some of our human service and safety net programs, you know, they're always going to be very difficult decisions. So we really went through the budget. You know, the governor, to his credit, put a lot of reductions and efficiencies on the table. We tried to expand upon those a little bit. We really looked at cutting down on the bureaucratic side of government, you know, cutting down on the Harrisburg side of government, including the legislature was cut in our budget proposal, and trying to focus on the programs that would actually get the money out to the folks in the communities who are providing those services directly. And it will take a transition. You know, we've been talking about restructuring and reinventing how government operates. I think this is the beginning, not the end of that process. But for once, you know, trying to look at some of our cost drivers, our pension system, our debt, our safety net services, and even our correctional system to try to find greater efficiencies so that in the future, you know, future legislators are faced with easier decisions than we're faced with today.
Democratic governor in Harrisburg, of course, and the Democratic side of the legislature, they seem to have different reactions. The governor calling the plan workable, whatever he means by that. And the Democrats just simply saying that there are too many cuts and we can't afford to make these cuts and essential services will suffer. How do you react to their reactions?
I had the opportunity to talk to both the governor last week, the Senate, and the House Democratic leader. And look, everybody has their own perspective. And that's why we moved a budget in April as opposed to the last week of June, so that we could continue on with this discussion over the next couple months and iron out any differences. You know, the reality is, like I said, we kept most of the governor's efficiencies and reductions in place. We kept most of his education increases in place. And we actually met with the House Democratic Caucus a couple weeks ago, and we included at least 50-60% of the items that they wanted to make sure were in this year's budget as well. So we've tried to look at it from a rational, reasonable perspective. Certainly there are always going to be differences oftentimes between the two parties on, you know, increasing taxes or reducing spending. We personally think, given the state of our economy across the Commonwealth right now, you know, we want to focus on making the budget affordable, not just for this year, but for the years going forward. And, you know, there are a lot of other issues that we need to have a discussion about too. Pension reform will hopefully be concluded here in the not too distant future. Property tax elimination has, of course, been a huge issue, not just in Indiana County, but across the entire Commonwealth.
Well, those are the two items I was going to touch on next, because the connectivity between them being resolved and arriving at a budget that is, I don't know, acceptable would be the word, but is taking all that into consideration. That's a huge portion of the budget is those two issues, property taxes and pension.
Well, yeah, from the state perspective, the pension issue not only drives the state budget with the increases in recent years, but also local school district budgets, and likewise then drives local school property tax increases. And pension reform is more of a long-term sustainability reform type of issue. It doesn't necessarily solve every budget problem at the moment that you pass it, but what it does is ensure that future legislators, our children, our grandchildren, aren't faced with the same decisions, skyrocketing costs that we've been faced with over the last couple of years. And, school property tax reform is really, you're looking to shift away from the school property tax as the way we fund our public schools at the local level, and looking at, either a combination of the state sales, state income tax, or, a combination of those two items, and perhaps some other local options for school districts to be able to get away from the property tax.
Get out the wrench and the screwdriver here, and let's dismantle some of that particular aspect of this whole discussion this morning. Property taxes and the odds that we're going to have something workable within this year, next year, what the time that span should be.
Well, it's hard to tell right now. I know the bill that had lost because of the vote with the lieutenant governor about a year and a half ago, Senate Bill 76, is still in the Senate. They are still trying to work through some differences, I'm told, in the Senate caucuses to try to get that extra couple votes to get it over the goal line to be able to pass it over to the House. And, when it gets over to the House, certainly I'm sure there'll be different perspectives over there, too. Obviously, I'm a supporter of that particular proposal. I had originally thought the bill would probably be in the House already, but it's my understanding they are trying to listen to input from different folks to try to make whatever changes are necessary to ensure its passage. So, in the House, we're kind of in a holding pattern for the moment till that bill comes over. But we respect the fact that, hey, if it takes a little bit of extra time to get it right, this is something we've been waiting for, since before I was born. A couple extra months of work in the Senate behind the scenes isn't insurmountable.
Yeah. All right. He's House Majority Leader Dave Reed joining us here this morning on Indiana in the Morning. I didn't ask you. You're running for Casey's seat?
I am not.
Okay.
But thank you for covering all the bases this morning.
There you go. Are those all of them? Let me see. We've done governor. Okay. We needed to ask those questions. Kelly is talking about maybe he'll challenge Casey. So we need to know these things. You have, along with Senator White and Representative Dush, announced this week the job fair.
Yes.
That is going to be happening, and this year at a new location at the Kowalczyk Complex. Talk about that a little bit.
Yes, and I'm actually glad you reminded me it's at a new location, because I probably would have forgotten and went straight to the S&T Bank Arena there. But no, we've decided this year to partner with IUP at the KCAC, because you've got a large influx of students who can provide talent to local companies as well. Basically, same basic format that we've had in recent years, where we partner with the Career Link, with the county commissioners, with our state officials, and now with IUP to do a local job fair for folks. It's going to be, I believe, on Thursday, May 4th, beginning at 11 a.m. throughout the afternoon. We've got a number of employers already signed up for that job fair, and it's free and open to the public. Anybody can feel free to stop by.
It's interesting to me that it is going to be on campus with IUP graduation coming a week or so after. And a whole batch of graduating seniors having access to something like that. And one of the things that caught my attention in the news release this week was the idea of, and we've talked about it a lot in years past, keeping our graduate students here in the region, working here in the region, having them settle down and help us to revitalize the economy.
Yeah, we looked at it from two perspectives. Number one, IUP hosts job fairs for IUP students occasionally, as well. And, we're hoping to partner with them to draw in potentially some different employers for local folks to have access to. And then on the flip side, as you said, we've got a bunch of young people, both local folks from the beginning who go to IUP, and then outside folks who come into IUP. The more local and outside young folks that we can keep in this community, the better. We need more young folks who are not just working in our community, who then become entrepreneurs and start their own businesses within our community, and really looking at long-term sustainability.
He's State Representative Dave Reed. You have other events coming up locally?
I think that The job fair is the biggest one coming up here over the next couple weeks, and then we've already done 4 town hall meetings within the last month and a half, and we'll start to schedule the summer schedule here in the next month or so. But scheduling is on hold for the moment, as you know. Our scheduler's off with her second child, Adrian, who used to work here at Renda Broadcasting. So we'll begin to look at the schedule when she gets back.
Yeah, congratulations to Adrian too. What a nice lady you have working there for you.
She is, and everybody's just great. They work well together, and it makes coming to the office a little bit easier.
Terrific. Now, you're headed back to Harrisburg at some point here, and the budget discussions will begin again. In terms of the way that you expect those to unfold, do you expect rancor at the table as we've had in the past, or a pretty collegial atmosphere?
Look, there are always going to be differences of opinion. That's part of the negotiation process in a democracy. But look, so far, everybody's been very cordial. The governor gave his budget address in February. We went through the budget hearings for about a month. Had the discussion with all the other caucuses and the administration leading up to us passing a budget this week. I would expect that tone to continue at least over the next couple months. And hopefully, I think there is a concentrated effort for folks to try to find a way to meet in the middle, look at the core functions of government, change how government operates in totality to make it more affordable, and hopefully move on to some of those other items we talked about a little bit earlier.
Read for President 2020?
Read for Dad 2017.
There you go. Good plan. Thanks, Dave. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Todd.
It is Indiana in the Morning, presented by First Commonwealth Bank, AM 1160 WCCS, 101.1 FM.